meeting. Hearing the narrative, I had already warmed up a little when the man left with my sister, but he said it was only after he realized she was my sister. He told me she had emailed him the URL to her page, and he showed me too. I'm not sure whether he is speaking the truth. She breaks constantly and begs Dad for money, hence I believe she isn't doing very well. I never told Dad either. I couldn't even bring myself to question her about it straight. I observed her answering a call, then seated in the car with an old man another time. He left her flowers and headed off. She would sneak back into the house at strange hours through the window. This became evident when I used to return home over holidays from college. Though I'm not sure if she is still at it, I do not want to be involved in any of it. I'm glad about having a respectable post where I work. At last, I haven't lived much with the new family since my dad was disturbed enough to send me away any opportunity he could have. But I have seen Ash close enough to claim she follows her mother, Marissa, F58. Marissa thought she was really the icon in her heyday. She was really beautiful to men like my dad and used to be a flight attendant. If you know what I mean, she is now a regular botched face Karen. She runs the sort of neighborhood childcare and has hands like those of a claw, nails longer than her lipstick. Odd how parents would leave their children with someone like that. She could point out a child's eye with such long nails. She is, nevertheless, exactly as pokey as her nails. She loves to create trouble in other people's life and opinions about anything. She has more plastic in her body than the sea and a quite terrible voice. She is as real as phony leather. She affects Dad for the worst. She didn't want to raise a child that wasn't her own, hence I think she was a big factor in my dad not thinking twice before sending me 8 years to boarding school. Let me then introduce you to my dad. Actually, he is more the main cause of all this. Having lived a complete life, he believes anything he does in life is justified even if it is far, far from it, since he understands better. He laments having me since I'm not like him. Thank you God, I am not. My mother was a formidable woman. She looked after my dad well and clearly knew her priorities, yet they clashed. I should never forget that she used to tell me Dad was just a different person, not a horrible one. He will always be my dad regardless of what happens. She was a good person though. She didn't want to contaminate my views against my father. He was definitely as intolerable to her as he is now. Few months later, they split and divorced. 4 years old at the time. 2 months after the divorce, my dad then wed Marissa. When I reached 5, they had Ash. Later, my mother passed away in a car accident. She was out to come pick me from school, so I can't forget that. She had always been on time, she just missed 10 minutes once. Though it seemed to me like an hour, it was only 10 minutes. A drunk hit her at a crossroads. He made it, she did not. A few years ago he got a DUI, and I was left alone permanently. I waited in the school. It took them 2 hours to arrive to pick me up. My dad had come, hence I was misled and puzzled. His irritation when he turned to dead-faced Marissa and asked what they should do about me will never fade. She answered, "Your kid, your problem. Specifically, Dad. You cannot now come and tell me I will have to look after your spoiled child. At last I have steady work and oversee some side enterprises. Since I turned 15, I have been earning and have worked quite hard. I started boarding school, then moved to college, only visiting over the holidays, so I started living alone 8 years ago. I recently bought a property after working very hard to reach where I am. This is a wonderful modest house, far better than the apartment I had with buddies. I felt I would never be able to reach this life aim. Actually, I just moved in last month. Although I might not like my family much, fundamental politeness was to involve them in a moment this significant, thus I asked them to the housewarming as well. Watching his response was quite depressing. As he inquired about the furniture, the architect and the interior designer, he seemed jealous, to be honest, a bit annoyed. When I provided him what I believed was sufficient information, he answered with taunts such as, "I wouldn't know, you never bothered telling me," trying to get attention and clearly show our weak connection in front of friends and business associates, including my boss. 1 week went by and he called me. I had an intricate job to oversee while at work. I accepted since he mentioned he needed to meet urgently. When I got home, Marissa and puffy, red-eyed Ash were glaring from the living room and I avoided her. Dad was in the kitchen pulling beers from the refrigerator. He gave me one, and I graciously turned him down fearing what he might say. When I asked him what he wanted from me, he furrowed his eyebrows and answered another question, asking whether I had lately started complaining about us. Not sure what he was getting at, I scowled in uncertainty. He invited me to hang in the living room with Ash and Marissa. I nodded and turned to settle on a couch across from the two. Ash folded her arms. Marissa rolled her eyes. Dad came in and sat with them facing me. Leaving his beer bottle on the sofa table, he leaned back. Then he wanted to know whether I was blind. There was a pause, probably bewilderment on my end and rage on theirs. He said before I could reply that I either choose not to notice things that ought to be seen or I am blind. He stated I had most likely become somewhat proud ever since I bought a property and avoided looking at the individuals who really mean something to me. I groaned and asked him what he meant by all of that, wanting that he would be more explicit. He blew sarcastically, then informed me I wasn't disturbed by the dire circumstances in the room. He stated I had elected not to offer or be of any kind of assistance and that I had chosen not to notice the family was in risk. I obviously asked him what risk he meant. Glancing across at Ash, who rolled her eyes and declared she was pregnant. Like any other person, I wanted to congratulate her, but she started crying before I could. Marissa hugged her and advised me to be concerned enough to find out what's happening at home. Dad stated Ash recently discovered she was pregnant, and the lad who caused it had broken up with her since. Marissa also mentioned that Ash has decided to maintain it, hence our basis for next decisions should be based on that. Can she afford it? All I could say. Ash and Marissa stared death at me. To be honest, I meant good. I was worried. I was actually ready to help her, but in my thoughts I had already imagined perhaps they wanted me to contribute financially. Dad then got up and moved over to my side to sit down with me. That's why he called me, he stated afterwards. He added that although maybe my mother neglected to educate me how to be a good brother, brothers would throw their life away for the comfort of their sisters. He said he is a nice parent to his daughter. I ask for your effing pardon. I'm not dying for her, but I know my financial input is required. I sighed and asked him what action he wanted me to take about it. He said, "That's my good boy," grinned, rubbed my back. I forced a phony smile, which vanished the instant Dad said, "You're giving Ashlyn your house." "No, I am not." Dad answered straight away. "Yes, that's what I said." Dad scowled and asked me why not. I told him I could help with some cash, but the house is mine. Until she can afford it, I can let her share a room free from rent. Dad got up from his chair then said, "Nonsense. Dad, it makes perfect sense to me." He insisted nevertheless, that I not only offer her the house but also move out and buy another for myself. I contended that if Ash is unemployed and expecting a kid, she cannot even afford to run the house or pay the expenses. Those, Dad informed me, would also be my obligations. Apologize to me? Hell to the number one. Though I was enraged, I had to be polite. Thus I got to my feet and informed him that it was not feasible and that I would now be departing. I then turned to go. He wasn't content to stop there. 1 week later, he turned up at my place when I was at work. I'm not sure how he entered or where he picked the keys from, but when I returned home I observed men loading boxes loaded with my belongings outside the house. Hurrying inside, I asked them what they were doing and they informed me the house owner had told them to toss the goods. I said that they should go right away and that I owned the house, they should get my belongings back inside. I lost my composure. Coming home, this was the last thing I would have predicted seeing. When I went inside to see Dad and Ash, they still stood there insisting I follow what brothers ought to do. They ignored my advice to leave, thus I informed them I will contact the police. They went at last, bad-mouthing me, applying curses and things. Though I know this is a lot to read, it was much worse in person. 1 week has gone by and I'm posting here since I kind of feel horrible about it. Was I in error? I feel like they need me and I shouldn't cut them off like this, but I also feel like my actions for them have limitations. Growing up, their disconnection and lack of concern for me infuriates me. Today, they ask me to lay my life down for them. Bit much, not sure what you mean here. Tell me, let me know. I couldn't even get my buddies involved in this. Right now you are all I have. Update. Hey everybody. I hope every one of you is good. I posted 1 week ago, and to be honest I didn't expect the attention it attracted. As the comments arrived, some made me doubt a number of things. Not too long afterward though, I decided not to break off my family completely. This came about via Ash calling me. I welcomed her by telling me she wanted to see me. She wanted to tell me a few things, therefore she asked to meet at my place, but I was still getting used to the scenario made last time. I urged us to meet somewhere else. She was first somewhat nervous when we visited a coffee shop. She seemed somewhat unlike herself, but generally she is rather conceited and unpleasant. She told me she had lately been broken off with as we sat in the corner. I answered, claiming I had an idea since Dad mentioned the man who got her pregnant had left her. She shook her head and said Dad believes that. She told me that although Dad believes her BF left her due to commitment problems, in fact she is the one with the commitment problems. Unbelievably.